Okay. So here, let's say in our case, we will be using for the front end, we will be using React. And for the back end, we will be using Flask. That is in Python, we are using Flask. Correct now? So here, let's say if you want to communicate, yeah, if you want to communicate between front end to the back end, we will be using REST API to communicate between the client and the server. Okay, well, so when I say client, then that will be a front end that we are talking about. When I say back end, that could be a server. Okay, yeah. And for the front end, what are we using? So we will be using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But primarily, we will be using React. See, all these three will come inside the React. Okay, well, so I think most of the people or most of the students have started just only keeping the .html file and then just start coding. No, so we are using React. Inside React, you will have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, well, so that you have to keep in mind. So another thing for the Flask, how are we communicating between the Mongo DB and the Python? By using PyMongo dependency or library. Okay, so in MongoDB only we are storing all the data. Let's say you have the list of users or list of tokens or list of events. Okay, so it depends on your project's need. Or you will store all the related data in the database. That database that we are using MongoDB. Okay, so in this big picture, anybody have a query?
No, sir.
Okay, shall I proceed to the next one? Yeah. So here, let's say if we talk about Flask. When we talk about Flask, we will be using Blueprint. I'll tell you what is Blueprint when we are coding the part. So Blueprint is something. Let's say we wanted to modularize the Flask. Let's say when you're having 50 plus 60 plus APIs, it's very difficult to keep it all the files in one place or all the APIs in the one page. Correct. So we wanted to keep it separate modules so that plug in and plug out will be even more easier. So for that, we will be using inside Flask. There is something called Blueprint. With the help of Blueprint, we will modularize the APIs. Okay, and one more library that we are using, Flask RESTful. This is where we are, adding the routes. So there are two part of routes. One part is in Python, another part is in front end. Okay, so we'll be seeing about one is in Python, and in Python you have to we are using Flask RESTful. So by using add resource function, we can add up the APIs. And Flask JWT extended to keep track of our user authentication token, JWT token. And for PyMongo, we will be using Mongo client to connect the database. And then we will be using find one, insert many, update one, update many. We'll be using this function to deal with the database. Okay. And for the React part, either you will be start using create React app or wait. But in this scenario, like because you already given the preset of pages, right? Preset of files. So you need not to do these two things because already done those two part. Okay, well, only thing what you have to do, you have to use npm install or uninstall to get started. Okay, well, so these two part you does not require because already the base files are given. So you need not to worry about these two things. And for the pagination, sorry, for the routing part, what we'll be using? React router DOM. So it can be many libraries, but for this scenario, we will be using React router DOM. Okay, so React router provider which will help us to define the router routes, and the link is the one who talk to give the link to the different pages. Either we can use Axios or we can use fetch or we can use request, so and so. But in our case, we will be using Axios, or we can also use fetch. So it depends on our requirement. We can adjust. These are the things. So either for this particular meet, we will be only talking about get and post. Okay, for the React hooks part, we will be talking about the use state and use effect. So far we were trying to cover these areas and then try to see how this goes. Let's talk about this one, Blueprint. Let me open the API folder. See, in your local also what you can do, you can try to open two different VS Code. The instance, one is for API, another one is for web. So here, if you notice here, I have opened only API part in the one separate VS Code window. Another one I have opened in the web folder. Okay, anybody have a difficulty to hear what I'm saying right now? Can you able to grasp it?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So one window is for
Yes,
API,
sir. Yes,
another
sir.
one, yeah, one window is for web, another one window is for API. Good to go. The same way, I'll have two different window for to run the API and also the web. So one is for API, another one is for web. Okay, so I'll just stop the server. How will you stop the server? By pressing Control C. So maybe some commands might be different from what I'm typing here. Let's say because I'm using a Mac, so this is Linux based environment. In your case, you might be using Windows based environment. So in that case, slightly adjust, let's say clear screen. If I type clear, in your case will be CLS. Okay, well, something like that. So you can just slightly adjust those commands. So how will you start the API server? Flask run. Correct? Huh? So right now I'm in the virtual environment folder. So if you have not activated, so what you have to do, let me deactivate. So if you notice here, there is no venv folder. So I'll go back to the API folder. If you see something called readme.file, so here we were already given what are the commands that you wanted to do. So let's say for Windows, first you have to install the virtual environment and then you have to activate it. Okay, so how will you activate it? This is the command to activate. The same way for my case, I have already installed the virtual environment. I have to activate only the command. So let me activate it. It's activated. If you notice here, the previous line does not have .venv, but after the next line, if you notice now .venv is coming. So if I type which Python, again, the command will be different for your case. Which Python might not work for you. So if you notice here, it's inside the SOA base folder, another one inside the API and virtual environment path. Okay, so let me run the Flask. So Flask run. Yeah, because already the environment is activated. If you notice here, this is the development server. Do not use it production deployment. So maybe sometimes, depends on your cases. You might have to run it like hyphen debug. Okay, or you might also supply hyphen host. It depends on your requirement. So in my case, it does not require. You can adjust according to your needs. Okay, for the front end, what we will do. So right now I'm in the web folder. Okay, and then I'll try to run it. How will you start the server in the front end? Either yarn start or npm start, depends on the package that you're using. So let me use yarn start to start the server. Okay, so the front end front end part also running, back end part also running. Back end part is running in the port of 5000. Here in the front end part running in the port in 3000. Okay, so front end part I have opened in the Chrome one. For the back end one, if I go to API folder, I'll just close all the files. There is something called main.http. Maybe I think if you guys already installed the REST client, that is the extension that we are using. Okay, REST client, so that you can run all the HTTP thing in the VS Code itself. Okay, REST client. Let me add in the no more. Shall I zoom it a little bit? Is it visible?
Visible.
Okay. Yeah, so REST client extension I'm using. So if I use REST client extension, if I save the file as .http, then what you can do, you can able to call the API in VS Code itself. Okay, yeah, if I go back to, let's say I have created a main.http. If you notice here .http, leave about all these parameter. I have defined a variable called @host 5000, and then we can call the API. Okay, so let's say whenever I'm calling this one, so if you notice here, can you see get slash is called? let me try one more thing. Let's say if I put triple hash, I try to call some other API which does not exist. Post path slash random slash path. Now if I run, what will happen? Will I get a response? If
Answer.
no, we will not get, because either if there is a path like this, then we will get the successful response. If we are not getting any API exist in this path, what will happen? It will return the 404. So if you notice here, if I run the API, if you go back to the API server, can you see get is called, get method, random slash path is called, but what the status is written? 404. So if you notice here, the previous API it is called get slash, that is 200 successful response. So now can we say that whenever we get 200, can we say success or okay? Can we say 404 for not found or failure? Yeah, so far we have learned only these two things. So one is whenever we call the successful API, we will get the successful response and the status also 200. But whenever we run for a unknown API or unknown path, then we will get the 404 HTTP response. Okay, well? So now if you're asking me, in order to run the API, do I need web folder? No, it does not require. See, right now we are only in the API folder. So this particular window only for API. Okay, va? Let's say if you want to work with anything related to the database or anything related to the functionality, then what you will do? You will only deal with it in the backend server. That is in Python Flask server. Okay, va? Whenever I say backend, or server, backend server, or Python or Flask, all we are talking about is backend only. Okay, va? So this is only naming convention, so that whenever you hear hearing the voice like backend server, backend, Python, Flask, everything, we are talking about backend only. Okay, va? If I talk about Mongo DB, or let's say DB, or database, storing data. So in this case, we will be using MongoDB. Okay, va? Or PyMongo also, we will be dealing with MongoDB only. So PyMongo, but PyMongo is specifically for Python. Okay, va? And whenever we talk about front end or React or HTML or CSS or JavaScript, what we are talking about? So we are talking about the front end. Okay, va? This is only for naming convention, so that you will not get confused hearing too many words at a time. Okay, so I'll try to keep it this way. So whenever I talk about backend server, it means that in the command prompt, the server which I'm talking about, if I say front end server, I'm talking about the command prompt or the terminal, the front end server, this one. If I talk about front end code, web folder, the code, VS code. If I talk about the API part one, the backend code. Okay, va? So can we keep the conventions like that? Will it be easier?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the front end, back end, so one is, let's say if I talk about front end server, if I say front end server, then we are talking about terminal or command prompt of web. Okay, va? Let's say if I talk about backend server, of API folder. If I talk about front end code, we are talking about web folder of VS Code web folder. Backend VS Code API folder. Let's say if I say UI or output, then we are talking about, let's say for in our case, let's say Chrome browser. Okay, va? So this is only naming conventions to avoid confusions later point in time. Anybody have a query in this area? In this part? Front-end server, we are talking about the web folder where we are running. So what is a portal which is running in the web one? So that is localhost 3000. Okay, well, so I keep that as well here. So this will be in the port of 3000. And for the API one, I'll just keep it only command prompt. So this will be in 5000. Anybody have a query so far?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we will straight away start with the code. So we will be talking about blueprint. Yeah. So what is blueprint here? Blueprint is something, let's say, to modularize the part. Let's say if you notice here, there are sample folder, there are dashboard folder, there are auth folder. These are the three folders that you might see in your code. Am I correct? So assuming that, let's say dashboard also couple of APIs will be there. Let's say dashboard, get books, get events, get something like that. And then auth, let's say login, log out, get the current user data, so on so. And sample you will have the get to post list some of the APIs. Okay, well, assuming that these are the separate module, and then we will wanted to link it to the main one. Let's say we are talking about the add resource, where the add resource part of this is part of API, where the API is part of, if you go up, API is equal to API. This API is coming from Flask RESTful. Understood. See how you can identify. Let's say whenever you're opening any package or any function, now you have to minimize the function. So if you minimize, how many lines of codes are there?
10.
Approximately, let's say 4 import statements. One is initializing some variable called API, and then one function within this particular page. Correct? So, but what is the starting point? Starting point is run.py. So here run.py, it is called. Now that will be calling the create react app. That create react app is from root folder. What is the root folder here? This is the root folder. I'll try to minimize everything. So if you notice that, how many folders are there in the main level? Root folder, some main.http that we were just run the sample code for the HTTP part. And then no more MD that we are just note down the nodes. README is the one that was there before. Requirement.txt is the one who holds all the packages that you want to install. And this is the batch files. Let's say here, every time I don't want to type the command like flask space run. Okay, well, instead of that, what I'll do, I'll just try to run with the file. So what will happen now? It just run all the commands which is inside the folder. So let's say here, because I'm using a Linux based environment, I'll be using export. In your case, you will be using set. Okay, well, so let's say I'm telling the server, okay, Flask app is the root folder, and then debug is on, and the environment is development, and then clear. And here also attaching the host. Let's say if I want to change the host thing, I can also change it to, let's say, port 5001. Let me stop the server and then run it again. If you notice here, the port is changed. Have you guys noticed here? 5001. How it changed? Because I'm passing the parameter. Okay, well, let me change it back to 5000 itself so that you will not get confused. Yeah. So 5000 back to 5000. So these are the files. So this is the starting file. So now if you notice here, whenever you are creating using a function, there could be two possibility. What are the two possibility? When we are, let's say, creating a function, or when we are using a function, when you are using a function, there are two possibilities. Either one will be in the same file, or it will be in the different file. The function can be in the same file, or function can be in the function or variable. You can keep it anything, no problem with that. Function in the same file or function in the different file. If it is function in the same file, do we need to import separately? If the function is then the same file, let's say if you notice here, API variable is in the same file. So are we importing anywhere API here? Not this API. This API is different from this API. This is the local variable. So you can import, you can use it anywhere in the same file. So no problem with that. So does not required. But whenever you are having a variable or function that you wanted to access from the outside, then what you have to do? You have to use import. That is, we have to import the function or variable from the respective path. Can anyone tell me how to import in the Python? In Python, how we can import? Very simple. See, if you notice here, from the name of the file or the folder or from the root path, and then import function name. What about in React? Can you see here? Can we keep it like that? I'll just keep it as fun so that it will not go to the next line. Yeah. Can you able to relate these two part?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So very simple only. See, only difference is here from the file we are importing the functions, but in React the import keywords coming first, from is coming second, and we are specifying the file name here. And the file name, insta file name, you can keep it anywhere like the folder, subfolder, so on so. That will with the help of slash. Okay, va? If you notice here, this is the default import. Let's say whenever you are exporting as a default, then you can import like this. If you are exporting as a non-default, then you can import like this with the help of curly braces. Understood? Huh? But in Python, there is no such a thing like default or non-default. But for now, you can just import like this. Very simple format. Now, if we come back to create React tab, good to go. I have importing the create function. Then this function will be called. We are initializing Flask app, and then we are adding some secret key. And this will be this we will talk about later, because this does not, you need not understand in this first place. Later you can just to try to see what is going on here. Yeah. So this is the part that we wanted to look out. So let's say in home folder, can we import like this? There is a from keyword, and dot home is the file path. When you say dot, what does that mean by? In Python, whenever you start with dot, what is that mean by the path? Current folder. So it will try to look for in the current folder. Okay, so it will try to look for in the current folder. Where is the current folder? The same folder. We are in the root folder. So in the same folder, it will try to look for the file home. So in that, we will have some class called home. Now you will have a question. Why do we need to use class and home and resource? So this is a part of the Flask RESTful that we are using. Okay, so if you, let's say, if you want to learn about learn more about Flask RESTful, what you can do? You can just go to Flask RESTful documentations, go here, and then try to do the quick start, and then see. See, if you notice here, we are initializing the Flask, and then we are attaching the API to the Flask. So if we come back here, so we are initializing the Flask, and then what we are trying to do, finally we will attach it. Can you see here? The API is attached to the init app. So slightly you will have a different variation. So that what you can do, if you go to the documentation now, then you will come to, so no issues with that. After that, what we have to do? We have to add the resource. So if we come back here, can you see that add resource is there? There is an API. Then add resource, the name of the class followed by which path. If you come back here, name of the class, which path, and there are some additional parameter which depends on the requirement, you can attach it. If not, you can leave it. Okay. So if you go back to home, what is the method that we are using? Get method.
Get.
If you are using post, then this will be changed to post. Okay. So that is part of the syntax of Flask RESTful. Don't confuse with this is the part of the Flask. This is part of the Flask RESTful package that we are using. Okay. Let's say if you want to use get, you can use get. Instead of, if you want put use or put, you can put. Then maybe you can also have something called post. Can you see post here? And also there is something called delete. Where is delete? Yeah, delete. Okay. So these are the part of the REST API. That pattern is followed by the Flask RESTful. Let's say if you are using different packages, then you have to read the documentations and you have to adjust it according to your need. Okay. So let me run again. Let's say I'll just change this into home success. Ensure that the server is running perfectly. So let me go back to the main.html file. What it says. Oh, sorry, I have clicked on the random path. So let me click on this one. Can you see the home success came? So it means that whenever we are changing any file, if you notice here, we have clicked the first time, we have clicked random path, that is why it returned 404. After that, we have clicked on root path. So that returns the 200 response. Okay. If you notice here, there is something called deducted changes. So let's say if some of you guys might not added the debug flag, because of that, what will happen? No, whenever you are changing the file might not be deducted. It means that the server is not restarted. But in our case, the server is restarted automatically. If the server is not restarted, what you have to do? You have to stop the server, and then you have to start it again. Okay, for each changes. To avoid the each changes, what you can do? You can set the debug flag. Okay, so far so good. Can we add one more API to the same file? Let me copy this simple path for now. Let me add one more part that is let's say about. Let me keep it as about. Then let's say about success. Okay, is it good to go for now? So what I did, I just simply duplicated the complete class of home and then just try to return. So in this about success, I'll try to add something like, okay, so just adding some sample data. So now what we have to do, let's say we have added a class, but did we attach to the route? This class is created. It means that we have functional device we have done, but we have not plugged into the main API. So here, if we go back to the home page or the main page of the project, now what I'll do, I'll try to add one more thing. Let's say API dot add resource, add underscore resource of about. About is the class name that we have created. Then path we would like to add about. Then endpoint I'll try to keep it the same. Okay, but if you notice here, what is coming here? About is not defined. What does it mean by?
It does not find the about class in this file, so we need to import it.
Yes, so we need to import. So the same two scenario. One scenario is either the function should be in the same file. Then if it is function in the same file, we need not import. But because now function is in a different file, what we have to do? We have to do the import. For the import, this is the pattern that we have to follow. So from the name of the file. So in our case, name of the file is remains home only. Okay. And import, the name of the function is about. So let me go back to the same file. But if you notice here, there is already imported with the home. So now I have two choices. Either I can go like home, import, about. This is one way. Or another way, I can simply add, because this is a duplication of the same line. Correct? So what I'll do, I'll try to add it in the same file, same part. So the same way, if I go back to add one more point to this, Let's say if we are having more than one function, so let me keep it, this one will be, let's say function 1, then function 2. Maybe I'll just try to keep it as C. Function 2, I'll add C, function 1. Shall I keep it as only default, something like that? Yeah. Function 2. Understood? Huh? So maybe I will just add a note here. Func means function that we are talking about. See, sometimes function they will call, sometimes they will call method. Okay, va? Sometimes they will call class. Depends on your requirement or variable also. So depends on the place, we will just adjust it. So when I say maybe default. Okay, va? So this can be, again, file name can be a different thing. Let's say it can be a path also. Understood? Huh? So we'll go back here and then import it. So now we'll go back and then see detected changes. Yes, we have added, we have changed in init.py. Yes, changed. And also because I have saved, the error was raised. Then before that, what other files we have changed? We also changed home.py, correct? So ensure that the home.py also changed. Yes, detected changes. Okay, so it means that the server is already restarted. Now we'll go back and then we'll go back to the main.http. I'll just duplicate these 2 lines. So here I'm using the shortcut of, I don't know, I forgot. Wait a second. In my case, shift option down arrow. Yeah. So what is a path? Abort. If I try to run it, can you see the abort success came? Good to go. See, let's say if you want to create any number of APIs, very easy. What you have to do, first you have to create a simple class with the help of resource. That is for that we are using Flask RESTful, and then we have to attach to the main one. Let's say you are making some light source, let's say some bulb, but if you're not connecting to the main source, what will happen? Let's say we'll try to do that as well. Let's say if I'm not trying to connect it to the main one, what will happen? Now if I try to run this one, it will be look like a not found only case only, right? Because we have not plugged it to the main source. Understood? Any queries so far? Please do let me know. Because if I go to the next step, no, then if you're having any queries in this area, then again it's very difficult to follow. Okay, I understood that you will not have any query. Okay. Shall we add one more route? Tell me, let's say I don't want right now, let's say I don't want to keep it in the same files. If I want to keep it in the separate file, what we have to do? First thing, we need to create a file, that is, let's say abort.py, then created. Now what I have to do, I have to completely cut this portion and then try to keep it in the abort.py. Now, if you notice here, resource is not imported, correct? Resource is not defined. Now what we have to do? This has to be imported. So now resource class is depends on what package? That depends on Flask RESTful package, correct? So if I go back to this one, if I can copy this one from the home path, good to go. Now this one is separated. Now do we need to adjust the import statement here? If you notice here, this home class is exists, but this is in white. It means it does not exist in the home file. Now we have to adjust this one to the different path. How will you adjust? From, because we are in the same directory, dot abort, import abort. Good to go? Any query so far?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we'll run it again, ensure that all the things are good to go. So now we'll try to add some more commands and then try to see. Can we add some other thing, author, some other name? Okay, let me keep it as sample. Okay, sample author. Now if I go back and then try to check whether API is running, good to go. So far so good. Now see, right now we are focusing on one at a time. So one is blueprint. Blueprint is help us to modularize the APIs, because let's say we have One folder is for sample, another one folder is for dashboard, another one folder for API. Let's say if I don't want anything inside the path one, what I can do? I can simply comment these two lines. Okay, va? So we need not to worry much. So we can just simply plug in and plug out if we are keeping it as a module. So for that we are using Blueprint. For API and add resource will help us to deal with the routes. Flask JWT is helpful to work with the JWT token that we will talk about later, because that will have some more time, that requires some more time. So we will not touch that part now. Yeah. So for now we will focus on the PyMongo one. PyMongo is for what? Anybody tell me?
To access MongoDB using Python.
Using Python.
Yes. For PyMongo, to, let's say if you are having some data in the database, now if you want to take the data to the Python code or Python one, so what you have to use PyMongo dependency or the package. Okay, well? So now if we go back, already in your sample code that is already given with db.py, so you need not to worry much. So let's say I'll just go to the documentations, PyMongo. Let me go to the documentation, official documentations. Good to go. Yeah, so installation is already done. Tutorial will start with tutorial. Can you see here from PyMongo we are importing a Mongo client. Okay, so there are two ways to access. Let's say here either we'll import PyMongo from PyMongo.mongo client we can use. Another way, from PyMongo we can import Mongo client directly. Understood? Huh? So here we can just remove this part. That's it. That is only different the previous code and the current code. Okay, so I'll just keep it as the previous code itself so that we don't want to mess up with anything right now. Yeah. From that client, what we have to do? Before that, what you have to ensure? Before even checking this piece of code, what you have to do? You have to check whether you can able to connect the MongoDB server is running or not. Okay, so at the time of installation, you will be asked to check the checkbox as MongoDB as a service. If you guys check now, what will happen, right? Whenever after the successful installation, the MongoDB server is automatically started. But if you uncheck those checkboxes, what you have to do? You have to manually run the MongoD command, and then you have to keep it in the separate command prompt. That is a tedious process. Better, I will suggest you to keep it in the service. Okay, ma? So for example, right now I wanted to check whether my connection is working or not. My connection is localhost 27017 M04. If I try to run the command, it means that MongoDB server is running. Because of that only, what happened? The data came. Okay, ma? So it means that MongoDB server is running. So now initializing the client one, from the client we are trying to access the database name. So either you can keep it, because right now I'm keeping it as a variable, I will use in the square notation. If I want to hard code, what I'll do? I'll just put it like this. Or another way of doing this is dot notation, dot M0, M05. Either way, this will work. Okay, ba? So I'll just try to keep it in the variable name itself. And we have keep the variable name as MDB. So whenever you are calling the function like get MongoDB, then it will return MDB one. Good to go? Yeah. So if we come back to the documentations, what they are trying to do. So either you can do like this so that it will try to connect the default one. Or if you want to explicitly specify, you can pass the localhost 270, or another way of doing this, you can pass the URI. So we are connecting with the help of URI only. Okay, ba? And there are two ways to access the database. Either you can use the dot notation or you can use the square notation. From the DB, we can able to access the collection. Now, we'll try to know a little more about SQL and versus MySQL so that you will get some other idea. Let's say here we are calling database. What is the database that we are using here? MongoDB. And here, for the first level, we will be calling as database. For the second level, we are calling as collection. Third level, we are calling as document. Okay, ba? And let's say if it is in a MySQL, MySQL or SQL or Oracle, depends on that. First level database, second level table, third level row. Understood? In the document, we will have the key, then value. In that row, what we will have? We will have the field, then value. Understood? This is more or looks like a JSON. This one look like a 2D array. Or yeah, 2D array we can say. Yes. Because we will have only rows and columns. Maybe it looks like a rows and columns. Understood? So whenever we say database, that we are talking about the overall database. So from the database, we have to take the first we need to talk about the client, correct? So we need to establish with the help of Mongo client. Okay, from the Mongo client, we can able to access the database. From the database, we can able to access the collection. From the collection, we can able to access the document. So whenever we wanted to deal with the document, so in this level only, we will be using find one, insert one, insert many, update one, update many, delete one, delete many. Yeah, it came. Maybe I'll just try to group together. Any queries here? When you say find, how many data will be returned? When you say find, you're expecting either it can be a 0 or more result. 0 or more result. But when you say find one, we will expecting only 0 or 1. If the given selection part or filter query, either it will return 0 or it will return one document, worst case. Here it will return worst case 0 document, I mean no documents, or it can have more than one document. Okay, ma'am. So this requires what? Whenever we say more, then it requires a iteration. What is iteration here? How do you iterate the data? With the help of for. Correct? With the help of any iterator functions. For find one, it's straightforward data. Insert one, you are trying to insert only one document. You are trying to insert more than one document. Updating only one document. Updating more than one document. Deleting one document. Deleting more than one document. Good to go. Got some idea so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here, if we come back here, so from the client, we are accessing the DB. From the DB, we can able to access the what? From the DB, let me go back to any sample and then try to see. Yeah. Okay, not here. Maybe dashboard, routes, dashboard. Yeah. Any sample, any database. Yeah. So this will be the DB. From the DB, we are accessing collection. From the collection, we are trying to deal with the query. That is find one, update one, insert one. Understood? So now let me insert one data and then try to deal with that. So can we go this particular API? So what we have done, we have created a folder called sample. So we'll try to keep some HTTP file so that to deal with the okay. So let me keep it a sample itself now. Yeah. So to call the API, and then from that, it's similar to home method only, no? Sorry, home class. So class, name of the class, and we are passing the resource because we are using Flask RESTful. It's a get method. So we have to pass self for the pattern. So, and then we are trying to return some, dictionary to the front end or the API. So what is the API that we have registered here? We go to routes. As usual, API is add resource with the help of the class name. then we are passing the path. How will you, because it's an external file, what we have to do? We have to import it. How will you import? We have to specify the path. How will you specify the path? This is the root folder. Root, inside root folder, there is a subfolder called, I'll just minimize. Yeah, subfolder called sample. Inside subfolder, there is some file name called sampleget.py. That is sampleget here, where it is. Sampleget. From that, we are importing the sampleget route. If you notice here, these are the case sensitive. Okay, so here all are either in a Pascal, camel case or the lower case. But if you notice, the class name is in Pascal case. Okay, so we have registered. So if I try to call the sample/get, so we have already have that path. So can you see the data came? So yeah, so it's a 200 response, successful response. If I put unknown path, what will happen? Now tell me what will happen. 404. That's it. Now, what is the database name that we have created here? M05. Is there any database name called M05 here in this list? Only M01, M03, M04 is there, but there is no such a thing called M05. Let me try to insert some data. Let's say whenever we are calling an API, where it is sample. Let me close all the files. Close all, go back, sample get. I'll just try to remove this one so that we don't want to return anything. Now let me run it again to check everything's okay. Yes, all the data are cleaned up, good to go. Now we need to import the DB. How will you import the DB? From root.db import get MongoDB. Correct? So mdb equal to get MongoDB. So this is the function. So from that functions, what we can do? mdb dot, or let me do one more thing. Maybe I'll try to connect to M04 and then try to list the users. Okay, so let me go back to the DB collection, M04. Then if I come back to the get one, so MDB, what is the collection name that we have? Collection name that we have in users. Oops, I have selected. So let me close it. Users MDB dot, the name of the collection is users dot find. Whenever we use find, what we have to do? Tell me. We have to iterate. How will you iterate? With the help of for item in this one. So let me print item. Now tell me what will be, let's say whenever you're using print statement, where we have to see the output of this print statement? Backend server or front end server or VS Code output itself or API result itself, where we will see. See, we have not even touched the front end. Okay, so whenever we print, then this will be come in the backend server. That is the command prompt part. So here we will, that print statement will come. Okay, so let me go and run it. So if you run it here there is no result. If you notice here, the print will not come here because this is a return statement. So if you notice here return came all the results. Can you see here what happened? Yeah, maximize. So can you see all the results are came? User 1, user 2, user 3, so on so. It's very simple, as simple as it is. But if I want to return it as payload, what we can do? Instead of printing here, I'll just create a variable called users as an array or list. In Python, we will call it as list. In JavaScript or other places, you will call it as array. Okay, there is some difference are there, but we need not worry about right now. So we'll just use append, then we'll just append it, and then we'll try to return the users. So here, what we can do? Okay, so now if I go back and then try to run it, yeah. Now if we go back to the backend server, API is called get method /sample/get 200 is written. But if you notice here, the similar print statement did not came here because we are not used print statement right now. We have just returned the data. Okay, what happened? Anybody have a query? Yeah, someone is messaged or answer. Who is that? Okay. So shall we proceed further?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So very simple. See, if you notice here, did we put any hard work to get the simple data from the database? No, we have just initialized the DB. Initialized with the help of Mongo client. We get the client data from the client. We access the database. From the database, what we have done? We have accessed the collection. That is the users collection. From the with the help of find method, what we have done? We can able to get the data. What if I wanted to use find one? Let me remove this as well. As I said, for find one, it returns how many data? There are two possibility. Find one, it returns two possibility. What are the two possibility? Either it can return 0 data or it can return the 1 data. If it is find one, what will happen? 0 or more. If you are using find, you will get 0 or more. Find one, 0 or 1. So let me add user equal to mdb dot user start find of. Let me add. I'll not adding any conditions right now. So let me print it here. When I use print, what will happen? Whenever we use print, yeah, it will print in the backend server, correct? Yes or no? So let me go and run it. Yes, but here we are not returning because we are printing. Can you see the cursor data came? Why cursor data came? Because we are using find. What we have to use? We have to use find one. If you use find one, you will get the actual result. It will try to return the result. Understood? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let me try to add some condition. That condition does not exist. Let me add underscore ID, something, let's say random. What will happen? Do we have any underscore ID called random?
No, sir.
No, we do not have any ID called random. So if I try to run, we will be supposed to get 0 or 1 data, but in our case, we will get nothing. So if we go back to the AI, what we got? None. So we are not getting anything. Okay, ma? So let me add some more nodes here. Let's say whenever you are getting no data, no document, it will return none. If it is document, then this will be written as a dictionary. But in this case, if you are using iterator, what will happen? So it will iterate. So with the cursor only we will get, correct? Then we are just appending it. We are using append, using for loop, and then get the dictionary individual item, and then append. Okay, but if you are not using cursor, what will happen? If you are not using for loop, you will get the cursor as a result. So that is what we have got in the previous executions where it is cursor. Yeah, this one. Okay. Any queries in the find one? Any queries in the find one or find?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, good. So let me go and add. So how many data we have right now? 7 data. Shall we add one more data to the database? With the help of insert one, let me go back here and then try to keep the variable. Let me copy the data so that any simple data is fine. Copy JSON. I try to keep it here. Let's say new user equal to what is the ID that we want to insert? That is 8, user 8. Let's say here, yeah. How many do we have a new user object? Shall we print here?
Yes.
Yeah. If I run this query, will the data will be inserted to the database? If I run this
No,
API,
in backend only.
only it will print the data to where it will be printed.
To the backend console.
Yeah, in the backend server or the backend console or whatever we can call it as. Yeah, so we'll go back and try to run it pakka. Yeah, so we got the data, but we wanted to insert this data to the database. So in order to insert to the database, we need the database first, correct? This is the database that we are holding, that variable name called mdb, correct? So in mdb, what is the collection that we wanted to insert? Collection name? Users. Okay, va? So if you notice that users also in a plural word, so that it will be easier. In users dot insert underscore one of new user. Shall we run it now? Yeah. So let me put something like, let's say ID or something like that. Let's say new or response. Let me keep it as response. Also try to print. Now in the console, how many things will be printed? In what are the lines will be printed in the console or the backend server? Line number 24 and line number 28. Correct? So let me go back and try to run it. Let me check one more time so that whether the data are inserted. I'll try to remove this one, get collection, so that it will be more simpler for you. Yeah. So 7 data are returned. Now APIs are running, changes are detected in the sample get.py, good to go. Now we can call the API. API is called success, no problem with that. Now we will get two response. One is for new user, yes, correct. Another one will be response. What is the response that we got? We have got pymongo results dot insert one result. Okay, va? So now if we go back and run the API, what will happen? Can you see the number 8 is inserted? Can you able to see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So now, very simple. Now tell me, if I run the API again, what will happen? If I run the API again, what will happen?
ID already present.
Because underscore ID is supposed to be unique, correct? But if I try to insert again, I supposed to get the error of duplications, correct? Either it can be duplicate or we will get some other, you cannot able to insert some sort of error we should get. Our expectation is that we need to get an error. So now we'll try to run it again. Yes, we got an error. What is an error we got? Let me go to the terminal and try to see. pymongo errors dot duplicate key error E11000 duplicate key error collection M04. That is a collection name that we are talking about in users collection. Duplicate key is AD is error. Why? Because 8 is already exist. Now, if I change it to 9, what will happen? See, I'll be using Control D for selecting multiple placeholders. For the VS code, we can add some more thing. Control, I think control. In my case, command. In your case, control, I guess. Control or command. In my case, command is to select the similar words. Okay, before that we have done something, duplications. Control Alt Shift Alt down arrow. Shift or Alt down arrow. Okay, shift in my case option will be OPT option, for my case down arrow to copy, not the add the cursor to the next line. No, copy the line below. If you want to copy the line above, then you can use up arrow. Okay, so let's say if I press this one, I can copy. Understood? And if I want to select the cursor, what you can just select the word where what you wanted to select. Then if you press Control D, it will just start selecting the words that you have selected. Now I wanted to change it to 9. I can change it to 9. Now if I try to run the API, now tell me how many of you say that the successful result, or how many of you say that you will get an error? If I run this API for the first time, will I get an error or will I get a successful output? No idea?
Successful output.
Successful output. Why? Because we have changed the ID, correct? So we have changed the ID to 9, and these are the similar data. So I try to keep the data as more similar, so that whenever we try to see the data itself, we can able to identify, okay, this result is belongs to the ID 9. Okay, so we'll just try to run it. Successful result. Now if I go back to the database and then try to run it, good to go. Got an idea so far? Yeah, we'll go back here, and then can I try to add this point here itself? I'll try to move this logic here. Now we'll try to return the data. Instead of going back every time to the database, after the successful insertion, we'll try to list it out. Okay, va? So now I'll try to change this one to, okay, maybe I have to change it, some other adjustment a little bit. Age is 100, okay, that is fine. Good to go. So let me change it to age is 10. Any query? Oh, okay, this one we have to change. 10, 10, 2010. Now what will happen? Now we need not to go to the database to check the data, whether data are coming or not. We will try to return in the front end itself. I mean, to the API itself. So if I run it, we got the result here. So one data, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I run it again, what will happen? Tell me, will I get an error or will I get a result like this? If I run it again, we supposed to get an error. Why? Because we are trying to insert the same number. So we will get an error. Yes, we got an error. Okay, so now we will try to do something with an update query. Let's say, sir, I have an ID of 10. I'll try to remove this logic. And I wanted to update the age of full name. Let it be this one. Here alone, I try to add a for the, let's say this is update data, update input. Now we don't want to update, don't want to insert, we'll just try to do the update. We have to tell what? We have to tell the ID, which ID you want to update. Let me update here. In this scenario also, I'll try to return only the data. So let me add some filter command, filter equal to ID 10. What do you want to update? $set. This one. Okay, ma'am. I'll try to explain the later point time. For now, good to go. So here we will try to return only the find one. So let me add user 10 equal to mdb.find one of filter. Shall we return the user 10 alone for now, so that we can see whether the update results are came or not? User 10. Now what will happen before updating? What is the data of 10? In 10, what is the registration number for data 10? Registration number 1010. After the update query, so update query requires you have to tell, no. See, whenever you are updating something, you have to tell what are the records that you want to update. So it means that you have to pass the filter first, and then you have to pass the update query. This is the update query. Here you will have something like set, push, add to set, unset. Those are the commands that you have. Some flexibility you have. For now, we are trying to change something, only registration number. We are updating something. So you can use set $set query to update the data. So in the update data, what are the data we have? Registration number A1010. So if I try to run it, user 10 is coming as null. What will happen? Oh, sorry. Maybe we'll try to see underscore ID. Underscore ID is integer 32. Okay. Integer. Let me change this into integer. So if we go back and try to run it, yes, successful data came up. What was the result? Is it updated or not? Because this data is coming from the database. It means that we are not hard coding the result. If we go back to the 10th, then this is also changed into 1010. Understood? Any queries? Very simple. See, insert query requires how many parameter? Insert query, how many parameter or arguments required? Only one parameter. One parameter, that is dictionary. Insert many, one parameter, but that is list of dictionary. What about update? Find, you will have what are the things? Minimally one parameter. First parameter will be the selection. Second parameter will be projection. Understood? For the update one, selection and update query. Okay, va? Any query so far?
No.
It's a simple thing. See, for that, what you can do, you can just go to the documentation and then try to see. Let's say insert query, you are just passing the data, only one dictionary that you are passing. You have to pass the dictionary for the insert one. Okay, that is why we are passing. In JavaScript, what we can say. So in Python, these are the similar thing, but you cannot say that are same. JavaScript. Okay, va? So in Python, we will call it as dictionary. Here we will call it as array. So maybe I can just try to keep it as this one. Tuple slash I. What I'm doing. Okay. So that you can easily relate where that we'll be using it. Yeah, we'll go back here and then try to do something. I update query is done. Update many also the same. Let's say if I wanted to update all the records, let's say status. Let me update status for all the records. Let's say update one will be, let me comment this one for now. Yeah, I think many of the team members have a difficulty in committing the code. So let's say so far we have done so many activities, right? So if we go back now, if we see the list of files are changed in the GitHub desktop app, you can able to see the list of files. So maybe I'll try to exclude the PyCache. Where is git command? We will try to exclude, ignore. We don't want to commit these files. Okay. What are the files we want to commit? So git ignore we will commit. These are the changes that we have added. We have added the about one, and we have added these comments. And then in the root path, we have added the about one, about endpoints, and about we have added some simple class to check whether the get AP is working or not. And then in the DB, we have added M04 as a database name. We have changed. In the home one, we just added home space success. And then sample HTTP, we have cleaned up scenes. Yeah. Sorry, we have removed that and then changed it into sample.htp file. And inside the sample get, we have added, we have removed this command, payload one initially, which was before, and then added some of the lines like users. We have used find one, find, update one, list one, find one. Okay, one. So these are changes that we have done, and added a batch file and index now. So that's it for now. So we'll just commit it this one. So let me say working with Mongo. Insert one, update one, find one. If I commit now, what will happen? it will ask me to push it to the origin. Once it's pushed to the origin, what you can do, you can go back to the repository. You can create a pull request, because just now I have created a pull request now. So you can just click on compare and pull request. This one can be done by the individual team members. Let them create a pull request. Once the pull requests are raised, what you can do, you can merge it to the branch. What branch? Okay, I think I have supposed to edit. Let me go back and then change it to the development branch. Yeah, I wanted to raise a pull request from Sivaraj branch to development branch, and then I have to raise a pull request. Once the pull requests are okay, eligible for merging, I can do the merge. So shall we go ahead to the next one? So how many files are there right now? So these are the changes that we have done. For the backend part, we have done like this. So what are the, can you please summarize the things that what we have learned? Blueprint. Anybody tell me, for blueprint, what is the purpose we are using?
To modularize the code, like to break it into smaller fragments.
Yes, correct. Because so that we can
maintaining.
scale. Good. What about the Flask RESTful? Flask RESTful? To add the APIs, path routes. For the front end, we'll be using React Router DOM. For the back end, we'll be using Flask RESTful. From the Flask RESTful only, we are using add resource, and then we can also deal with the get post one.
Okay.
Yeah. What about PyMongo?
A Python module that what we are importing to access the MongoDB
Database, correct. To
database.
access the data from the MongoDB database. Correct. Huh? So before MongoDB database, you have to check whether the MongoDB is running already. Okay, well, some of the time, we might not run the MongoDB server separately. Because of that, whenever you are trying to connect with the client, then you will get an error. It means that the MongoDB itself is not running. So that you have to done separately. Okay. So with the help of find, how many data will be returned? With the help of find?
0
Yeah, 0 or more data. So whenever we talk about 0 or more data, what we have to do? We have to use iteration method. So that is far in we can use, so that for each iteration the cursor will be returned. From the cursor we can able to access the dictionary. Okay, what about find one?
0 or 1.
Yeah, for find, how many argument or parameter can be passed?
Single argument, like what we to select what we have to fetch.
Yeah, so one is for the select one, you will have two things. One is for selection, another one is for projection. Okay, va? Somewhere we have written, yeah, selection and projections. Let's say for a simple understanding, have you guys learned about this one? No? Select star from table name key equal to value. Correct? Huh? So this is the MySQL one. Am I correct? So this star is represent what? Projection. Correct? Huh? This star represent projection. In the same way, in the first argument, selection is something like similar to this one. Correct? Huh? So in MongoDB, what is a parameter? Here you can pass curly braces, or this is optional. In MongoDB, this one is optional, or you can pass as a key value pair. or you can pass dictionary. We can just simply keep it as dictionary. Here also you can keep it as dictionary. Understood? This is optional. This is also optional. See here, you can also use the specific field names, right? I mean column key or field key. To exit. Okay, va? Here the same way you can pass the dictionary. So for the projection and then selection. So selection we always pass as a empty curly braces by default. I think default is not empty. So you have to pass mandatorily dictionary. Yeah. So if we come back insert one, we have to pass only one data. If we are saying insert many, then you have to pass more than one data. If it is update one, you will pass only one data. But here you will have two parameters. One parameter is to tell what, where or what has to be updated. Second parameter, the set or put or set or add to set or push or unset. These are the commands we'll be using. For the update many, you will pass again. First argument will be for the selection. Second argument will be for the update many content. Okay, va? So yeah, so far so good. Any queries so far? The Python side of it. Shall we go to the front end? See, right now we have not even touched the web part. But what we have done, we have just simply iterated and we have added some couple of routes and then try to deal with the data. Okay, va? So now if we go back to the web one, then you will have the source folder. Index.js will be the starting point. If you notice here, we are adding the router with context. From the router with context as a simple functional component, again that returns the current user context and router provider. So we need not to worry about right now the current user context. So we will just talking about the route. So for router, what we are using for the front end, we'll be using React router DOM. Okay, va? If we go to React router DOM, you can try to see how you can deal with the pages. So simple example we can go, or maybe we have some sample examples to straightforward. Yeah. So can you see there are two things that we are passing for each route path. One is path, another one will be element. Can you tell me in the backend how we have deal with the same similar pattern with the help of add resource? With the help of add resource, we are passing the class name. So here will be a class name and the path, but there path is remain path element. Instead of class name, we will be passing element name. So in the element name, either can be simple HTML or it can be any functional component. Okay, for the front end part. So if we go back to the router, can you see there are couple of routes are there? One is for root, another one is for path. I mean the slash dashboard, slash users, slash login, so and so. So whenever you are trying to go for a slash, what will happen? Which element is called? Which functional component is called?
Intro page.
Intro page. So now the same situation, right? Either the intro page component can be in the same file or intro page component can be in a different file. Am I correct? If it is in a different page, then what we have to do? Tell me.
You have to state path.
We have to import first of all, correct? So most of the cases, all the import statement will be in the top. So if you notice here, import name of the class or the name of the functional component followed by from statement, this one. Now tell me, is it a default export or non-default export?
Default.
Default. If it is a non-default, how it will come?
With curly braces.
Yeah. So now can I say that create browser router is a non-default export?
No, sir.
Yes. Why? Why cannot?
Yes, sorry, yes, sir.
It's a non-default export because we are using curly braces. Okay, so very simple. In React, we will have two type of import. One is default import and then another one is non-default import. Okay, any non-default import will be curly braces. Default import will be the straightforward names. Good to go? Shall we go to the intro page and then try to see? Yeah. So whenever you're opening any any component, what you can do, first minimize it. So that now you will get the big picture. Can you see the big picture here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there is some couple of import statements we don't care about right now, and some functional component, and then some export. So most of the time we will try to keep all the export statement at the end of the page, so that it will be easier and then easy to follow for other persons. Okay, now we will try to expand the intro page and then try to minimize all the relevant part. So can you see functional component return something here? Yeah, it returns something. So if I expand this one, there is something called header, there is something called simple HTML tag, some data are coming, some links are there. This link is belongs to which library? Link is belong to which library?
React router DOM.
React DOM.
React router DOM. Okay, and is it a link is a default export or non-default export?
Non-default.
Non-default. What about Axios?
Default.
Default. Header?
Default.
Default. What about React?
Default.
Okay. What about the use effect?
Non-default.
Non-default. Why it's non-default?
Inside curly braces.
Inside a curly braces. Very good. That's it. See, as simple as that. See, if you're trying to work on couple of pages now, then you will get some solid idea. Now, for the import path, there are two possibilities. Either it can be a package or it can be our own file. Yes or no? Most of the time, file will not have any dot slash so and so. Okay, majority of the time. But all our code will be starting with either dot slash or slash, some sort of things, or at symbol, something like that. Okay, so that you will get some clue. Either it can be R packages or it can be a dependencies. So can you see the whenever I'm overing the React, can you see the path?
Yes, sir.
Where it is that React is exist? Always you have to start from web only, because before path you need not to worry much. So you have to start from web folder. Where is a web folder? In the second line, second word, /web /node underscore module /add types. So if you notice that the clue is here, node modules. Okay, whenever we see anything under node modules, it is a dependency. So that you need not to edit. Okay, if you notice here, what is the path?
Intro.
Yeah, we have put double dot. What does that mean by? When you put double dot, what does that mean by?
Previous one we put at two
We have to
directories.
go to one step backward. Correct? So now let me go back here. Here, can you say that? Can you put like this /intro? This also same, right? Yes or no? Both are same. So we need not to let's say if you want to access app.css, what you can do? You can put double dot and then what you can do? App.css. I think it is not inside. So inside pages, inside intro. Okay, so it means a two level. /app.css. Okay, good to go. Now you got an idea how we can import the files. So when you say dot, it will go back to one level previous. Then if I put one more dot, this will go back to the source folder. Inside source folder, we are looking for a app.css. Okay, I'll just try to undo it. Yeah, good to go. So any doubt so far? Import side?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So now how will you call the component? Just like a one of the tag. Simple HTML tag always in lowercase or hyphen case. For a component, we will keep it in the partial case majority of the time. Okay, if I go back to header, Again, first step, what you have to do, you have to minimize all the things. Can you see minimized all the things? Is it easier to follow up now? Now,
Yes, sir.
yeah. So first thing, you have to minimize it. Second thing, you have to minimize all the sub functions so that you can directly focus on the return statement. Okay, va? So most of the time, return statement at the last of the functional component. If you go back here, then again you have to minimize. So can you see only one return, one parent element? Good to go. So now if I expand this one, again you have to minimize all the sub portions. So second level, how many data are there? One link is there. If the current name is exist, then login button, current user not exist, then login button will come. The same way current user does not exist, logout button will come. Understood? Huh? So
Yes, sir.
it's a simple. So trying to use the same component. So now if we go back and try to see, let's say if you are running the front end server, where you have to access. For the backend server, if you want to directly run the API, we have used the REST client one. Correct? But for the front end one, what you have to do? So you have to go back to the URL that is in the browser, localhost that is in our case 3000. Okay, va? So this is the URL that we are looking up. Let me go back to the API folder or the front end code. So can we command all these things? We'll try to see what is happening. Now I commented, ensure that the whether it is restarted or not. Come back. Yes, changed. Yes, changed or not right now?
Yes.
Yes. So now I'll try to comment the header also so that I don't want to see any of the things right now. Good to go. Saved. Now shall I put hello now? Ensure that all the things are working perfectly fine. Hello came. Good to go. So it means that we are good to go to the next step. So now we'll try to hard code some data. Let me command all the things so that you will not get confused. Or we'll do one thing. We'll just create some other file to keep the data. So let me create a folder called, shall we create a folder called books? Yeah. So shall we create a folder file called index.js? Okay. How will you create a component? Constant, let's say books equal to curly braces, your function, then return books. What you can do? Is it hard to follow up right now? I have just created a simple functional component. I'm just returning a word called books. Good to go. Huh? Can we add this to the router? How will we add to the router? So we have to go to index.js. We have to go to the route part, and then we'll just add up a route. So let me add one more route called, let's say, books. What is a component name? Books. Maybe I'll try to change the name where it is. Books index. This let me keep it as books page. Okay, va? So that it will be easier to reuse that component. So let me change it to books page. Now how will import? Tell me, import books page. It's the name of the functional component from where? Inside the pages folder, inside the books folder, index.js. Now if you notice that whenever we use index, then we need to explicitly specify index. Okay, that is a default one. If it is some other name, then you have to specify the name of the file. Good to go. Now if I go back, how will you access this one? /books. Can you see?
Yes.
Now can we add one more button so that we don't want to every time manually type in the URL? So I'll go to the intro page. I'll add one more link. Let's say I'll copy this link one, paste it here. What is the route that we want to add up? Books.
Books.
Good to go. So this padding is for simple adjustments, spacing only. So let me go back here. Can you see there is a button called books?
Yes.
Yeah, if I click on this one now, it will come. Very simple as that. If you're asking me whether button is needed, again, that up to us. So without button also, what will happen? It will come. Can you see? Okay, va? So button is only for the look and feel. So without that also. Now, how will I select the button? Similar words. What is a keyword that we, or what is a command or shortcut that we have to use? Control D to select. Okay, so all the buttons are removed, so let me keep it. Now if I go back to the GitHub, let's say I wanted to commit these 3 files to the other person so that other person can fetch it. So what I can do, added routes for the books page. So let me commit to my branch, that is commit to Swaraj, and then after that we have to do the push origin. Once committed, we have to click on push origin. Good to go. So it's pushing. Yeah, push is done. Now if I go back to the repository, now we'll create a compare and pull request. Now I carefully change my branch into Sivaraj. Then I'll change this one to development. Now the same commands came up. So I can create a pull request now. In reality, maybe your team manager, team lead will have the access to the pull request merge and all. So you can raise a pull request, team leader will review the code. If everything's okay, then they will merge. That is a usual scenario. In your case, depends on your requirement, you can adjust it. Okay, let me go back to the page right now in books. Yeah, so now first thing, we don't want to directly connect to the APIs. For that, what we can do, first try to hard code some data. Constant books or maybe we can try to deal with the same user data. That is the easiest way because we already have the data now. So let me change this into users. Okay, so that we can easily connect to the database and then try to check. So let me go back to the route. So let me change this also to users, and we'll go back to the route and then also change into, yeah, so I have changed everything. Now if I go back, there is no books page. So if I go back, what is that? Page users not found. Page users not found because the folder name is not changed. Okay. Yes, changed. Good to go. So if I go back to users, good to go. Now, anybody have a doubt so far? I just changed the name of the function, name of the class, name of the functional component, name of the folder. Why I have changed now? Because we can try to query the same users collection and then try to display for that purpose. Okay, so I have copied one data and then try to keep two data so that we'll just go back here, just simply hard coding right now. Copy JSON. Okay, how many data are there here in this code? Two data. Good. So now for the backend for iteration, what is the function or what is the thing that we have used? For in loop we have used. For the front end, what we can use? Map function we can use. Correct? So let me, shall we put it in the table format? First, whenever you are opening anything, what we have to do? Immediately, we have to close it. So what is a header that we wanted to look like? Whenever we are opening anything, what we have to do? Immediately, we have to close it. Then we will open the row, then we'll close it. What is a row? What are things that we want to show? ID, full name, date of birth, age, registration number. So let me add th. What is a th? That is an ID. Another one will be full name. Another one will be date of birth. Another one will be age. Another one will be registration number. Good to go. Let me put some border here so that it will display the border. If not, it will be simple thing. Yeah, it's came, but no data are came. Why? Because we have not added so far. Good to go. So let me come back. So for that, this one we can add it in the T body. Whenever we are adding T body, what we have to do? We have to close the T body. Then what is the variable name that we have? Users. Correct? So before users, first thing we will try to add some dummy data so that for your understanding purpose. Can we hard code this way? One, user one, only registration number. Yeah. Now how many data are came?
100.
One. Is this data coming from the database?
No.
No. Is it data coming from the JSON file?
No.
No, sir.
No. Is it data is hard coded?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Where we have hard coded is in the same file or different file?
The same
Same
file.
file.
Same file. Is it the same function or the same file? File is same, but in the same function. Correct? If this also
Yes,
can
sir.
be outside, right? So this is different. Okay, still you can access the variable, but the context is different. Okay, well, right now we are keeping everything in the within the same component. Understood? Now, let's say if you want to access this particular data, users first user. Okay, I'll just try to create a variable called constant user of 0. Now, how many data will come here? When I say user of 0, sorry, users of 0. How many data are come?
100.
One data. Why one data is coming? Because we are
This is
accessing,
0.
yeah, we are accessing the zeroth index. Zeroth index is a dictionary or object. So in that it contains only one data. So let me access this particular variable. It's a singular variable. If you notice that I'm trying to keep it as a singular variable. Now can I access that variable here? User dot underscore ID. Instead of this one, can I access like user dot full name?
Yes, sir.
User dot DOB. User dot what is that? Age. User dot registration number. Good to go. Now is it now the data are coming from the variable or is it coming from the hard coded data?
From the variable.
From the variable. Okay, va? Now if I change the variable to the second user, now it's supposed to change, correct? We are expecting the second data. So can you see the second data sir came?
Yes.
Yeah. So now let me add, let's say keep it like this. Let's say I try to keep it as user 1, user 2. So let me, this one is user 1, user 2. This is user 1. This is user 2. Can you see both data are came?
Yes.
But is this method, will it scale? Let's say I wanted to add, let's say third data. If I try to keep the third data, then will you create one more variable 3? And then will you change it to 2 here? And then will you copy and paste the whole data again and then change the variable? Is it possible to scale? See, why? Because see, now what we are trying to do, except the variable name, user 1, user 2, user 3, except the variable name, all other things are what? Same only. Yes or no? So for that only, because this method we cannot use right now. So first we'll try to commit it. These are the files. So let's say users list hard coded. Push it to the origin. Then. So now we'll come back. I'll try to remove this one. I will remove this one and also I'll remove the first two variable. I try to change the variable to user. Can I change this into user? Yeah. Now instead of hard coding this variable like this, I try to cut this particular portion UI part. Now instead of hard coding, we will use the iterator method. That is, let's say from the users array, we can use user, and then we can take the first argument. From the first argument, what we can open this, open, and then another open, close. Yeah. Can you see here? This is the plural word. This is a singular word. Okay, so it means that this is the array data. This is a one particular data, single data. From the single data, we are just I have just simply pasted. I have not even done anything here. Okay, so the same variable I'm trying to keep it so that it will come. So now how many data are there? 3 data are there. 3 data will come. So this is it data is hard coded now? Data is hard coded, but iteration is not hard coded. Can you see? Let's say if I'm adding the fourth data, what will happen? Tell me.
It will stop all the 4 data.
Yes, all the 4 data will come. If I add the fifth data, it will come as well. I go back, fifth data also came. Now we don't want to hold this data in the front end because in reality the data has to come from the database. Yes or no? So initially the data will be empty. So now how many data will come? Only tables are coming. Correct? But if you notice that whenever there is no user, we should not even show the columns. Yes or no? That is a bad practice. So either we have to show it nicely, like let's say if users dot length equal to 0, then what we can do, we can put some row, then we'll have some call span of 5, no users found. This will be looking good. We come back, can you see that? This will be looking good compared to the previous one. Yes or no? This is one way of showing it. Or another way, we don't even wanted to show the table itself. What you can do, you can add the similar conditions. Length is 0, 0, then what you can do, you don't even show the table. If the length is more than 0, then what you can do, you can show the table. So that is a two way of doing it. For now, let me keep it very simple format, this one. I'll change this variable to the use state, constant users, set users of data. Okay, in use state. So if you want to understand the get use state, what you can do, you can try to see here. So state variable, this is the name of the variable. What is the name of the variable here? Users. Let's say whenever the new data are coming, then what you can do, you with the help of set state function, you can set the new set the value to the new state. This will be the initial condition. What is the initial condition here? What is the initial condition here? No data. That is empty data. Okay, good to go so far? Yeah. So now what we will try to do, we will try to call the API to get the data. So let me create some use effect hook. I'll tell you the use effect after that point. I hope some little bit of understanding get async await, right? Or still you have an issue with that part. Now here, what is happening here? Tell me. Tell me what is happening here. We are using use effect as a hook. Okay, so here also we have to import a use state. Yeah, so use state is imported, use effect is imported. We are just to see, whenever we pass the second argument as empty array, it means that this use effect will be called once at the time of starting or rendering the component. So how many times this get users will be called? One time, but in latest React component, twice it will be called. Okay, there is some bug in the React, or they have some other logic to handle this. But for now, either it will be called one time, or worst case it will be called twice. Okay, so we want to call only once, so we'll just assuming that the get user is called only once. Let it be once. Then we are just trying to print. So whenever we use console.log, where it will be printed? Tell me. Will it be printed in the server? Whenever we use console, where it will be printed? In the browser inspect element part. Okay, oh, I have to add, because we are using iteration, no? So let me add a key. What is the key here? User dot underscore. Let me go back. Can you see that get users came in the console? So how will I get this panel? So if you click on console, I mean right click inspect, then click on console, you can able to see. If you can't able to see the inspect element here, maybe you can also click on more menu, more tools, developer tools. Okay, both are same. So let me go back here. Let me call. So there are two ways to access. Either I can use fetch or I can use Axios. So because already we are using Axios, maybe we can just go and grab some of the data, or we can just go to the Axios document and then try to grab. Maybe that is the easiest way. Axios. Let us go back to the documentation server website. Maybe you can just go down async. Can you see this is the get method, right? Axios is the import. So we have to import. How will you import? Import Axios. Can we do that? Yes, we can do that. Axios done. Second step, what we have done? We just use this line. That's it. Let me go and add this line. What is our API URL? http://localhost 5000 slash sample slash get, I guess. Am I correct? What was the API? Yeah, sample slash get. So before that, this path will come. So 5000 samples slash get. Okay. Shall we print now? Good to go. That's it. Let me go here. Can you see the data, sir, came? See, whatever the data which is written by the API, no, we got. So if you go back and try to run the same API, we will get the same result. To call in the API, it is not a bigger deal. It is not a rocket science. Very simple. So what we have done, first we have used use effect to, so that this function will be called once. This function is called, and then we just go to the respective packages that we are using. So in our case, Axios dot, and then we are passing the path. That's it. But here we don't want only the 10th results. What we can do? So we'll just try to remove this logic and try to return the users. Okay, va? So that users data will come. Users. So now if I go back here and then try to check all the data are coming, yes, users data are coming inside the payload. Status class message payload, inside that users is coming. Okay, va? So if we go back and then try to refresh the page, get users called, inside data, payload, there are 10 data are came. Now you will have a question. No, sir, I don't know whether data are coming from the backend or not. So let me check that. So let me copy this 10th data. I'll just try to insert directly here. Let's say add 11, 11, 11, 11, 11. Save it. How many data are there? 11 data are there. Now if I go back, if I'm not refresh any of the backend code now. So only I'm refreshing the front end code. Can you see here data? How many data are came right now? Users of 11 data. 11 data also came. So it means that the data are coming from the database. Understood? Yeah. The only one thing that we have to do. So here data are coming inside the data variable. Inside data there is something called payload. So let me access directly data here. This is something called destructuring. From the data, what we can do? Constant status. What are the other things we are passing? Status class message. So I'll maybe to avoid confusions, what I'll do, I'll try to change this one into CLS and then another one will be MSG. Okay, so that you will not get confused with the other class. So inside that data, you will have CLS message payload status. We go back here, status, CLS, MSG, and then payload. This is the destructuring from data variable. Now what you can do, you can take the data. Inside data, what you have? Users. Constant users equal to payload. Now you have a variable of payload. So better I'll try to remove this and then try to set the data of set users of payload of users. Okay, va? So I'll console, remove the console also, so that you will not have to worry much. So I'll just try to print only the console here. Can you see the data are printed in the table? The data are coming from the database, but only one problem is here. Let's say whenever I'm refreshing the page, here loader symbol is not coming. Let's say if I'm not setting this data, there is something wrong with that. See, no users are found, but still the data are coming from the server. It takes few seconds. So how will you do that? So first for that, we need to introduce one more state variable called loading. Set loading by default, let me set it to false and then set loading to true. Once data are coming from the server, we can set it to the set loading as false. So I'll just comment this portion to mimic that. Let me add one more variable called, we can access the variable loading. We can add a simple conditions loading. Or we can put like this. So for example, let's say here, the length of the 0 is 0, or if it is not loading, length of the 0 is 0, then we can put this. Okay, va? So this is simple and condition or condition. If you guys learn, no, that is very simple and condition. If the loading is there, then only loading symbol is coming. So let me keep by default loading. So if we go back to the UI, can you see that loading only coming? Okay, but there is one problem with that. So because I have not added the no users form. So let me add this logic to here. Instead of paragraph, I'll try to add it here, so that it will come inside the table itself. Okay, va? Maybe if you want to align the text to the center, what you can do. Good to go. The same thing. If you want to show this one also in the center, you can do it. Right. So now no users will not come because loading is not there. So to mimic that, what I'll try to do, I'll call this function after okay, va? So let's say for first 5 seconds it will be load. After that it will show the no users. Let me refresh it again. First it will show the loading because the function is called. After 10 seconds or 5 seconds, the API will be called successful API. The set loading becomes false. Because set loading becomes false, what will happen? This becomes false, this become true, then this will be displayed. Okay, va? So first will be loading. It server is set to called. Let me show this also. Yeah, let me clear it. Loading. Yeah, get API is called. Because get API is called, we got the successful result. Because we got the successful result, it will be cleaned up. Any queries here? Only one thing is left. If I set this one, no, problem is solved. So let me show this. Let me add this one. Loading. Once the get one is called here, get is called, now displayed. Because data are came now and data is also set to the users. Understood? Huh? That's it. So now we got the result from the server. Let me go back to the server and try to return to the empty array. Now tell me what will be displayed to the backend, I mean front end. If I run it, if I refresh the page, tell me what it will come. Because we are returning empty array, even though we are preparing it, but finally we are just returning empty array. So whenever you are calling this API, what will happen? It will return an empty array. So if we go back to the front end, if I try to run now, it will loading, then it becomes no user found. Why? Because let's say in the get user sample, users array, users returning an empty array. Got an idea? Let's say I wanted to return only one data. Let's say I'll try to limit this one to limit of 1. Now how many data will come if I run it? I think something is not correct. Limit 1. Okay. Oh, sorry. I still hard coded. Let me change this. Yeah. How many data will come? Only one data. So now if I go back to the front end and then refresh the page, what will happen? Wait for 5 seconds. Then it will return the only one data. Understood? Huh? So this way where you can control the number of pages, the number of results that you want to return. Let's say if I want to return only 5 data, if I run it, only 5 data will come. Now if I go back to the front end, if I just simply refresh, it will call the API. First clear it so that it will call after 5 seconds. Yeah. But in reality, we will not put this set timer on. So because I wanted to show you that loading symbol, how that appears, we have added that 5 seconds delay. So now if I go back, if I refresh immediately, loading will come immediately, the result will come because servers are same, so it will come fast. It will comes in a fraction of milliseconds. Okay. So now if you come back to the original part, yeah. So now you get us an idea. So for front end route path, what we can do? With the help of React Router DOM, we can able to add the multiple pages, more than one pages. We can give path and we can also point it to the component. With the help of link, where you can add the links between the pages. With the help of Axios or fetch or request, you can also use get or post to get the data. Get the data or save some data. With the help of use state, what you can do? You can have a variable whenever you wanted to change some data and reflect it to the UI, you can use the use state hook. Use effect will be used for to deal with any asynchronous request. And let's say if you want to call it only once or twice, so the second argument you have to pass empty array. Any queries? So now the same way what you can do, you can introduce some different pages. You can call the server, you can set the data. That's it. Now you have only one problem will be there. Let's say if I stop the server, is it server is running in the backend? If I try to run this one, server is not running because of the errors came. But what will happen to the front end? If I run it, what will happen? So this was the error most of the people are getting. What you are coming and say that no sir, we are getting an error. Why you are getting an error? It clearly says that no, because it trying to call the get method users also, but because that this particular API is not there. Which API? Localhost 5000 itself not running. So now that is not handled in the front end. How will you handle that in the front end? For that, what you can do, you can just put try catch. From this portion, the same way, one more function also calling. So there also what we have to do. We have to add. So if you go to current user context, so here also we are calling some API. So what we can do? Okay. Now if I come back, now this time error is not coming. Why? Even though servers are there, now if you go back, no log. Can you see the errors are came? Error, network error. Now the UI is not coming because we have handled the error. Understood? I think this one most of the team members having this issue. So now if I start running the server, what will happen? If I go back and if I clean up and if I try to run it, now error will not come. Understood? See, whenever you are getting an error, don't blindly come and say that no sir, we are getting an error. First try to read the error and then try to see the solution. So what you can do, you can try to check what is calling, how that's calling, whether it is a front end, whether it is a back end. Okay, how the data are communicated between each thing. And now somehow some things are related. Let's say here how the things are related because we are calling localhost 5000. That's it. Understood? So if I come back, if other person wanted to commit, what we can do? So we can just add like users list page handle. I can commit, then I can push it to the origin. Now if I go back, and then we'll refresh the page, compare and create a pull request. The only thing I have to adjust the branch name. So my branch, so the development branch, is it not pushed? Able to merge, create a pull request. Now there are two things are handled. One is page handle, hard coded we have added. Let me create a pull request from Sivaraj branch to development branch. That's it. I hope this session helps you some understanding the little bit of the overall big picture.